Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Belem, Machida versus Anders, and man, Lyoto Machida, he just got knocked out by Brunson. Now he's coming back for some more against Eryk Anders.
He needs that nice little six-figure paycheck, to take care of his family. And it's a matter of Anders is too green or not. It's a big step up in competition, no matter how big he is, no matter how hard he is. And I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah, just imagine you beat a dude named Marcus Perez, and they call you and you're fighting Lyoto Machida, main event in Brazil. It's definitely, the biggest fight he's been in since that fucking NCAA championship with Bama, you know what I'm saying? But he's been under the bright lights before, right, Shaq?
Yeah, he's performed under the lights. He's been in some big situations in terms of sporting events, so this shouldn't be anything new for him.
Yeah, and just to recap last week, I got back on track. My boy Shaq's already in the profit for 2018, but I got back on track with a nice max bet winner on Nico Price, and even Nico's worst case scenario was enough to make George Sullivan quit.
And that's the definition of a max bet. Your worst case scenario still has to be able to beat the guy, and that was the case. I watched the fight. Nico looked like shit, to be honest, but it still didn't matter.
It didn't matter at all, and he took care of biz, and max bet season's going to continue. We got a nice dog play on this card, but next card, let's just say max bet season, I can smell it in the air.
And since July, in terms of straight max bets, I can't tell you the last time, at least when we agreed.
On a consensus
max bet, the last time we lost. And, I looked at my stats since July, and I've only lost one max bet, and that was a parlay. So in terms of straight max bets, I'm undefeated.
And in terms of consensus max bets, with Shaq and I both agreeing, we're also undefeated. So definitely
sign up for that VIP package, you know what I'm saying?
And for those listening now, because listen, people are saying, oh, your membership fees are too expensive and this and that. If you're a $10 bettor, we don't want to deal with you. If you're a $20 bettor, we don't want to deal with you. But if you're an $100 bettor, if you're an $1,000 bettor, you should sign up today because, listen, after you cash this underdog play that we're about to give you this weekend, if you're an $100 per unit bettor, you're going to win $500. We're going to run a promotion right now. Normally it costs $60 to sign up for the event. We're going to give it to you for $50. So if you win $500 off this bet, you can't give us $50 back and you profit $450. That sounds like a pretty fucking good deal to me, Shaq.
For sure, man. And you're dealing with people that are 100% dedicated to this. What are we doing all day, every day? Watching fights. It's all about fighting. That's all my life consists of. And that's what I'm focused on. And now you're going to get a guy that's already focused on UFC 221, already knows what he wants to play. My clients, they get a week ahead of notice sometimes. I'm always in contact with my clients. Anyone can email me, message me, and I'm going to respond. So sign up for that VIP package, but my individual package is still booming right now, and we got the basic package as well.
Indeed, but if you want my cell phone number, you want to talk to me personally, you got to hit up that VIP because I'm very happy to help. But more importantly than that, let's do this fucking car start to finish, man. It's a good one. They hooked us up, so we'll hook them up. Deiveson, Figueiredo, Alcantara. He's minus 150. The comeback on Joseph Morales is plus 130 now. This kid, Joseph Morales, he's undefeated, but Deiveson Figueiredo is also undefeated. As we know, Shaq, everyone's got to take that first L, and as long as this fight's not a draw or a no contest, someone will take that first L. I personally think Joseph Morales has never seen anything like this before in his life, and I think he will take his first L, but I'll describe my breakdown after you, man. So what do you think, Deiveson Figueiredo or Joseph Morales?
Morales is a tough kid. Seems like he's got some good jiu-jitsu. He's a brown belt. Training at Alpha Male. He trains with Cody Garbrandt. We already know the roster that Alpha Male has. So he's around the correct people. He's around guys that have, been there, done that. But in terms of the skills across the board, I think Deiveson hasn't beat everywhere. I think Deiveson's honestly on a top 15 level. I think that the fight between Deiveson, Alcantara, and Jared Brooks, that was a high-level fight. Now, I'm not saying Joseph Morales isn't high level. I just still think he's young. He's green. He hasn't experienced anything as strong as Deiveson. Deiveson, he likes to go for a lot of guillotines, but it's a pretty nice guillotine. And, granted, if I was betting on Deiveson, I wouldn't want him playing that game with an alpha male guy, going for guillotines. But I just think Deiveson hasn't clearly beat on the feet, even though, he does get a little wild, but the force on the shots, I don't know how the guy makes 125, and I think he
cries to make 135. He's 25, actually.
Way bigger. So I think when he gets that body lock, I think he's going to muscle Joseph Morales down every single time, and I think he has the advantage on the feet. So I'm going to go with Deiveson. I might actually say a finish, like a second round finish, but it is a situation where it could be first L time. So I'm definitely gonna sit back and enjoy. But I'm gonna go with Deiveson.
Joseph Morales, he likes to get into a lot of scrambles, and he kind of reminds me of like a Louis Smolka, and that might work in certain spots. That might work when you're fighting, what was the name of his last opponent? Roberto Sanchez? That might work when you're fighting fucking Roberto Sanchez, but now you're taking on a top 15 guy in Deiveson Alcantara, and I don't think that's going to work here. I think Deiveson's got him beat everywhere. It's just about, people like to talk about Deiveson gassing, but man, Deiveson was going strong in that third round. You saw that fight in his UFC debut against Psycho Beltran when he knocked him out at the end of the second round. And even his last fight with Jared Brooks, he came back to win the third and final round, which was the deciding round on the judges' scorecards. And I know it was a controversial decision and this and that, and at the time I couldn't believe it. But when you and I went back and rewatched it, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. Don't get me wrong.
I still think Brooks won, but it was up in the air.
Brooks won, but it wasn't the robbery of the century like we initially thought. It was a pretty damn closely contested fight. And here, this is a step down in competition for Figueiredo. This is a spot where I think he's going to go out there and win, that guillotine choke he's been looking for in all of his fights. I think he gets that here. I'm going with Deiveson Alcantara via guillotine choke. Chick fight, Polyana Viana. She's minus 400, and the comeback on Maya Stevenson is plus 325. Now, Maya Stevenson, she's the wife of Joe Stevenson. They got a couple things in common. Both get brought in to lose a lot. Both jobbers. She's plus 325, making her UFC debut in Brazil. Now, I got a little stat for you, Shaq. The combined record of all the opponents that Maya Stevenson has beat is 0-13. Now, she's taking on a chick that's 9-1. So, you know what I'm saying? If she were to get this win, the combined record of all the opponents she beat would all of a sudden turn it into 9-14, which is still a losing record. But between you and me, Shaq, we know the deal here. It's a sacrificial lamb situation.
Yeah, if Polyana Viana was minus 175 or less, this would be Mac's best season. I just think Maya Stevenson does not have what it takes skill-wise or mentally to compete at this level. I think the promotion that she came from previously, Gladiator Challenge, is exactly what you just said. It's a bunch of, decent fighters fighting bums. Gladiator Challenge is like all the opponents that they fight is like 0-0, 0-1, 0-25, you know what I'm saying? The Ted Worthingtons of the world, and I think that's what she's been fighting. And I've seen her get knocked out by 1-0 Japs in King of the Cage, lost to Daniel Taylor in King of the Cage, and I think Polyana has her beat everywhere, especially on the mat. Like, Polyana's super long for 115. Now, granted, do I think Polyana's going to go out here and long-term be a future champion? Probably not. She'll probably never touch that belt in her life. But I think she's got Maya Stevenson beat. I would never recommend playing Maya Stevenson in any spot or this spot. So, Polyana, I'm going to say decision.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with Polyana as well. Maya Stevenson, her last fight on The Ultimate Fighter, she lost to a 2-2 fighter, okay, Shaq? Now, I know Sijara Eubanks is officially ranked #1 in the world, but between you and me, she ain't #1 in the world. Those flyweight rankings are a complete disgrace. They're a joke. I cannot fucking believe them. Look, when Jessica Ai is a top 10 fighter, when Paige Van Zandt is a top 15 fighter, when 2-2 Sijara Eubanks is #1 in the world.
Jillian Robertson is a top 15.
That's when you know what kind of a fucking joke those rankings are. And that 2-2 fighter absolutely schooled Maya Stevenson. I think this 9-1 fighter is going to do the same thing. And speaking of which, Polyana, man, she can knock chicks out. I've seen her knock chicks out with my own eyes. A UFC fighter in Amanda Ribas, who recently got popped. But hey, she was about to fight Juliana Lima. Polyana knocked her out, bro. You don't often see chicks knocking other girls out. So when you do, you have to take note of it. And also, we've seen her pull off some Dubronx-style submissions. She'll dangle off that neck. So this is showcase time. I got Polyana Viana. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, Joe Soto. He's minus 120, and the comeback on Iuri Alcantara is plus 100. Very interesting fight. Both very unpredictable fighters. Which way you leaning?
After Yuri's last fight, though I think he's done, yeah, I think he's definitely on the tail end. I mean, the guy's 37, 38 years old. Joe Soto is a solid UFC fighter on his best day. He can go 5 rounds with TJ or drag Hani and, paint the octagon red with Hani's blood. But
in Brazil.
The thing with this fight is, a lot of people, fall into that trap. Yuri's done. But the thing is, Soto is that type of guy where the flukes happen to. You never know what you're going to get from Soto. If you bet on Soto versus Brett Johns, who would have fucking saw that shit coming? Joe Soto's the EBI veteran. He's the high-level black belt. and he gets knee barred. And when he fought Anthony Burchak, I'm not saying he quit, but I mean those type of things happen to guys like Soto. I'm not a fan of his style. I think he's a tough guy, but I'm just the shell up style, move forward, eat shots. Granted it's worked out for him in the past, but enough for me to bet it. No, I'm going to go with Iuri, actually. I'm going to go with Iuri by finish. I think he's just going to, have that energy from the crowd. I think Soto's going to be doing his thing early. Then all of a sudden, Iuri will land a left high, straight left, and get the job done.
Yeah, and I'm going to go the opposite way, man. I am going to go with Joe Soto here. I feel like if Brett Johns were to fight Iuri, don't be surprised if Brett Johns calf-sliced Iuri Alcantara too, man. I mean, the kid's 14-0 for a reason, one of the top prospects in that division. And look, how many times is Iuri going to let you down, man? You know what I'm saying? One of the most exciting fighters in that weight class, but always drops the ball. Remember that time when he fought Frankie Saenz in Brazil and he was like minus 1,000? You remember what happened there? And in this spot, it's going to be interesting because Joe Soto, he loves to shell up, and I feel as if the knee could be a big weapon for Iuri Alcantara. It's just that you can't rely on Iuri Alcantara to actually let things go, especially at this age. So I actually think that Joe Soto is going to come out here and scrape out a decision, man, and I think the takedowns will be very effective here. I'm going to go with Joe Soto via split decision. Tim Means, he's minus 220, and the comeback on Sergio Moraes is plus 180. Now, I know Tim Means let down a lot of people in that last fight against Belal Muhammad. He didn't let us down, but he let a lot of other people down. You think he gets back on track here? Or you think Sergio is going to rebound from that knockout loss to Kamaru?
Well, firstly, I think the line's completely off, considering Tim Means' history, especially his history on the mat. I mean, he is a quick tapper. His wrestling is definitely lacking. His jiu-jitsu is definitely lacking. But then he's so inconsistent. Sometimes he'll, take down Alex with ease, and then the next fight, he's getting body locked and, tapping out real quick. So he's a flaky guy, a guy that I definitely, wouldn't trust, especially at this line. And, Sergio, I think that, his best days are behind him. I do think his best days are behind him, but I still think he's a solid fighter. I think the guy he beat Omari, he beat Magny, he beat Otto, he beat Davi Ramos. He's got some solid wins. Now, if this fight hits the mat, it is a landslide. I think if this fight hits the mat one time, I think Sergio can get him out of here. But we know that Sergio did just get knocked out by a stiff wrestler his last fight. Granted, I thought some of those exchanges were very entertaining. The openings are definitely there for Means. It's a matter of who gets it, who can keep it in their world. If Sergio keeps it on the mat, but I think Sergio can threaten him on the feet as well. I mean, we saw Sergio knock out Omari. We've seen Sergio throw some big, heavy shots. So I'm going to go with Sergio, actually, in this one by finish. I think Tim Means is flaky. I think he's inconsistent. I think he's up and down. When we really think about it, who's he beating?
I'll tell you right now who he's beaten. He's beaten Bernardo Magalhães, Justin Salas, Hernani Perpetuo, Marcio Alexandre Jr., Diego Lima, George Sullivan, John Howard, Sabah Homasi, and Alex Garcia.
I've never heard of any of those names in my life, and,
that's who he's beaten.
That's exactly who he's beaten. So, like I said, the guy really hasn't done anything, but, he's a fan favorite, and I feel like he's a guy that had potential back when he was fighting, Matt Brown and Sullivan, but that potential's run out now. That potential's over with. Belal outclassed him in every aspect of the game, and I think Sergio at dog money should definitely be considered by a lot of people.
Yeah, this is completely a dog or pass situation. Look, Tim Means, he's super entertaining. I like his hand fighting. I love watching him fight. But, people acting like he's some future world champion need a fucking big reality check because he ain't even a future top 15 guy, Shaq, okay? So, look, with Sergio Moraes, I read you Tim Means wins. Let me read you Sergio Moraes wins, even though you already told us. Neil Magny, first round finish. Omari Akhmedov, third round finish. Davi Ramos, unanimous decision. You see what I'm saying here? He's beat legit guys. He's a legit fighter. Not that Tim Means ain't, but come on, man. Sergio Moraes is actually going out there and beating real dudes. And, I know everyone thinks on the feet it's a mismatch. I disagree, man. Don't get me wrong. Tim Means could put him out, but
I disagree. I think Tim's the better striker, obviously.
Sergio swings big bombs, man.
Don't be shocked if he rocks them. Tim's gotten wobbled his last two fights. Belal wobbled him, and Alex Garcia wobbled him in that first round. So, I think he's on the decline. And I think his whole USADA thing.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too.
I think he's a cool guy. I'm a fan of Tim Means. I like his style, but let's be honest here, the guy. He's on the decline. He's a victim of USADA. His body ain't looking the same these days. he's always had that little wobble to him, you know, that little freeze up, but he's been able to get away with it. But this might be the spot where he doesn't get away with it.
I'm going to go with Sergio Moraes via mounted triangle, man. You know, I just think that as soon as this fight hits the mat, there's such a significant advantage for him that he's gonna tap out Tim Means, who loves to tap out at any thread of the limb or the neck. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go with Sergio for the upset here. Now, speaking of upsets, we got Alan Patrick. He's minus 235, and the comeback on Damir Hadzovic is plus 195. Now, shout out to my boy Damir, cashing that plus 275 against Marcin Held when he knocked him the fuck out with that knee. You know, practicing that jab knee in the back room all fight week long, and then coming out there and executing it on fight night in Europe. I mean, that's how you get your first UFC win. But now they're flying the kid out to Brazil. He's taking on Alan Patrick. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Shaq. Has Alan Patrick really not fought since the Stevie Ray fight?
Yeah, he hasn't.
Wow, so Alan Patrick's coming off a serious layoff because, as you know, Stevie Ray's whole career turned around since that point. You know what I'm saying, man? And so now it's about, is Alan Patrick gonna, you know, is he gonna do his best dry humping impersonation here against Damir Hadzovic, or is Damir gonna find the opening for that big knockout?
Yeah, you know, I won't put too much stock in the layoff. I mean, we've been seeing guys come back from 4 or 3 years and winning, you know, so I wouldn't put too much stock in the layoff. Alan Patrick is what he is. He's a Brazilian weasel. He's not looking to fight. He's looking to, you know, as we like to say it, I didn't know he was a, you know, that's how he fights, you know. He's super wild on the feet, just throws himself in these grappling exchanges with the Stevie Rays of the worlds and the Damian Browns of the worlds, and you know, Damir Hadzovic might be on their level when it comes to on the mat, but on the feet, Damir has the edge, clearly, in my opinion, even though Patrick does have some, like, hard left kicks to the body. My thing is the cardio. When Alan starts to get tired, he starts to do what I call the, you know, the typical Brazilian tendencies. They start flopping. They start, you know, pulling guard, going for leg locks, trying to just find ways out the fight just to survive, and a lot of times they get away with it. Stevie Ray is just not on that level. Now Damir, he has been practicing those knees. He's been you know, hanging around my oh man, Douglas Lima. He's been hanging around Douglas Lima,
My former boy.
I don't even know what to say about that guy, but
Is he gonna pull a Douglas Lima?
you know what I'm saying? So
is he gonna have the fight in the bag then flop to his back?
But Damir, I think if he keeps, it's the same thing with Sergio and Tim Means, in my opinion. If Alan can get it to the mat, he should have his way, because look, we know that Damir's ground game is lacking. You know, we saw Hell take him down several times, have his way with him on the mat, even on the feet sometimes. But I'm gonna attest it to the fact that he's so worried about the shot and, you know, his little rolls and shit. But at the end of the day, Marcin Hell got his ass beat. You know what I'm saying?
Marcin Hell went to the fucking fifth dimension.
At the end of the day, so I'm gonna go with Damir in this one. Plus 190, I think the line's way off, especially for a guy, you know, like Alan, who, like I said, when things don't go his way, he's going to start rolling for leg locks. He's going to start flopping. He's going to start to just hold on so he can make it to the decision so his fellow Brazil countrymen can score it for him. So it's a fight, you know, might want to stay away from, but I think there's solid value on Damir, and I'm going to go with Damir by knockout.
Man, I would love to see Damir come out here and get that knockout. Nothing would make me happier, but I got to go with my gut on this one. I do think that Alan Patrick is going to dry hump him for 3 rounds. But listen, don't get me wrong. If at the end of that second round, Alan Patrick is feeling that layoff, if he's huffing and puffing, if you know, Mario Yamasaki isn't the ref and we got an American in there and you start standing them up, because you know the new rules, you can't just lay on someone anymore, right? So if the cuddling ain't working for Alan Patrick, don't be surprised if he takes a canvas nap. And nothing would make me happier than see my boy Damir get another big upset. But gut is saying that Alan Patrick is at least going to grind out 2 out of the 3 rounds and take home that decision. So I'm going to be rooting for Damir, but I think Patrick is probably going to win a 29-28 here. Marlon Chito Vera. He's minus 125. The comeback on Douglas Silva de Andrade is plus 105. Now, Shaq, you know, Marlon Vera, he went from fighting Brad Pickett, he knocked him out in the 3rd round in England. He takes on Brian Kelleher, he taps him out in the 1st round in Long Island. And then they're like, you know what, we got this prospect here. Let's not keep building him up slowly. Let's go feed him to John Lineker in Brazil. And I'll tell you what, when you talk about feeding someone to John Lineker in Brazil, Marlon didn't take a knee or nothing. Marlon didn't go down like a bitch. Marlon came back and he won the 3rd round. So, I mean, compare how he's been looking now. since he's been training at Team Oyama compared to the Ecuador days, it's night and day. It's a completely different guy. I do think the finished product of Marlon Vera takes out a guy like Douglas Silva de Andrade. It's just about, is he his finished product yet? Is this the finished version of Marlon Vera?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think Douglas Silva is, definitely on the. First of all, the guy is not 32 years old. He's definitely like 42. You know how those Brazilian birth certificates.
It's like the Cuban birth certificates. Yeah, my boy Hector ain't 38. Yeah, he's 58.
They're off by like 10 years. So Douglas Silva de Andrade is definitely in his late 30s or upper 40s. But in terms of the fight, Douglas Silva's only lost what's his record? 24-2, boxing record, solid guy. But he's a typical Brazilian. Just stand in front of you, trade low kicks, and throw big heavy shots. He's like a more watered down version of Lineker, but he's not as tenacious as Lineker. He doesn't hit as hard as Lineker, and he's just not as good as Lineker. Now that was a good experience for Cheeto going against Lineker, and I feel like it was a case of he was waiting to see how hard he hit, and he felt it, and he lost the first 2 rounds. The third round was close. He scraped it out, but it was close. And as far as the fight goes, I think Cheeto might have a little bit of a problem with letting it go, pulling the trigger. In the Pickett fight, even though I wouldn't say Pickett was up too, but granted that was his first fight at Oyama, so I'm gonna give him an excuse. Give him an excuse for that one.
1 week short notice.
Exactly. I'll give him an excuse for that one, even though I think 90% of the bantamweight roster would have knocked Pickett out in the first round. Well, not 90%, but you know what I mean. Let's put it this way: Cody Stamann would have fucking went out there and fucking.
Hey, Pickett beat Mighty Mouse, all right, bro?
Yeah, like 100 fucking years ago, but fucking but yeah, it's just a fight where I'm not too sure. I'm not too confident in either guy. I am gonna go with Vera just because I think he's younger. I think Douglas Silva's on the tail end. But like I said, I fear that he's not going to let it go. I think he's going to win the third round, but it's a matter of winning one of the other 2 rounds. And especially in Brazil, we already know what he's up against. He's Douglas Silva de Andrade is from Belem, Brazil. He's the hometown guy, so we know if this is close, it's probably going to go to Douglas. I'm going to go with Marlon just because I think he's fresher. I think he's starting to figure out his long, lankier techniques. But personally, I'm not that confident, but I am going to go with Vera.
I'm going to go with Marlon Chito Vera as well, man. I think he's going to stay long in this fight. He's going to use his teeps. He's going to run, throw big body kicks. And with Douglas Silva de Andrade, look, man, the kid's got some skills, man. I say the kid. The old man's got some skills. You know what I'm saying, man? It's just that, he can get away with it when he's fighting the Cody Gibsons of the world. He can get away with it when he's fighting the Henry Brioneses of the world. But let me remind you, Chito Vera knocked out Henry Briones first, all right? Go back and watch that fight on Tough when Chito Vera knocked him the fuck out with that up kick. And it was supposed to be Chito Vera versus Alejandro Perez, but Chito had a skin infection which disqualified him from the competition, so he wasn't able to continue. But that would have been a hell of a fight, Turbo versus Chito. But look, man, now we get Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Marlon Vera. And it's just about, look, if Marlon comes out here and he tries to have a bunch of boxing exchanges with Douglas, then Douglas is probably going to win. But if Marlon stays smart, if he keeps it long, utilizes his kicks, and if this fight hits the mat, Marlon has a big advantage there. He's been a black belt for a while, and I'm not sure exactly where he got his black belt, but I'll tell you this. If he's still bringing that black belt in at Team Oyama, that means he's a legit black belt, because they wouldn't just let him wear it there if he wasn't legit, you know what I'm saying? So, and you saw that submission he pulled off against Brian Kelleher. I mean, yanked the dude's arm, fucking got taken down, then immediately armbarred him, and Brian Kelleher went on to absolutely destroy Damian Stasiak. He finished him. A guy that Pedro Munhoz couldn't finish, even though Pedro kind of, he preheated that oven, if you know what I'm saying, bro. That sounded kind of gay, but but listen, bottom line is, I think Marlon Vera is going to come out here, and I think he's going to style on Douglas Silva de Andrade. I think the first round is going to be close, but I think as it goes on, he's going to run away with it, and it could be a flying knee knockout, it could be a head kick knockout, it could be a submission, but bottom line, I think Marlon Vera is going to get this one done. Now here we go, man. Main card time. Thiago Marreta Santos. He's minus 280. The comeback on Anthony Lionheart Smith is plus 240. Now, they call him Lionheart, and I mean, he does have 3 third-round knockouts in a row. But to get to the third round with a guy like Marreta, you can't just be a Lionheart. You got to have lion fucking durability, man, because as you know, the way Marreta has been looking lately, he's been running over dudes.
For sure, man. And his last fight with Hermanson, he got favela with my boy Jack. You know what I'm saying? He styled on Jack bad. And his fight with Mershart, he got favela with Mershart and he beat Mershart's ass. And his fight with Marshman, he got favela with Marshman and he beat his fucking ass. So Santos is one of the most brutal people in the game. You know, his fight with Spicely, so what? That's not gonna happen here. He's not gonna get his back taken and choked out.
Hopefully.
It's not going to happen. Just like, you know, they said we were crazy for betting Alessio because he got choked out by Spicely. But I was like, so? What is Aluwali going to do? Take him down and choke him out?
Aluwali's a jiu-jitsu black belt,
bro. Is Anthony
bro.
Smith going to take Machida down and choke him out? Yeah, right. So, you know, as far as the fight goes, I feel like this was... You know, when it first got announced, I felt like it was a trap fight instantly. I felt like I knew a lot of people would be on Machida, and obviously they are. Granted, I think he is the better fighter. How many times has Anthony Smith been knocked out?
7.
7 or 8 times.
That Alan Amagov one was absolutely disgusting, by the way.
And, you know, the thing is with this fight is, even though we've seen Machida go 3 rounds, what I fear is a bloody war. What if it's a back and forth war and Anthony Smith has eaten the shots? And what if he is still here in the 3rd round? The way the kid's been fighting lately, he's been like a complete different fighter in that 3rd round. He's been looking like Ortega in the 3rd round, fucking swarming guys. We saw the Hector fight, even though Hector won the first 2 rounds. It was a completely different story in the 3rd, and I don't even think it was more of Hector, because Hector just gassing out or... Oh, Hector can't take a shot anymore, but fucking... The way Smith was going after him, you could just tell talking to him in between rounds. I became a fan of the guy after that. I was like, that was pretty badass, talking shit to him in between rounds. Hector, you know who the fuck I am now? And, you know, Hector's not responding, and Hector's like, fuck, man. This guy's going to beat my ass.
Hector knew he was fucked.
And but as far as the fight goes, I am going to lean Machida just because I feel like his strikes are going to be too much for him in the first round. But if Anthony Smith eats the shots, all the people that max bet Machida, hold your fucking breath and pray to God he doesn't quit.
Yeah, exactly. Look, a drawn-out war in the 3rd round, that's a very scary situation for this fight. But that first round, man, the physicality of Machida is probably going to be too much. I mean, Anthony Smith, look, much respect to the dude to be able to go out there and get 3 third-round knockouts. Just to win in the UFC is a big deal and something that not a lot of people... Oh, it's not 3. What was his?
Elvis was 2nd round.
Oh, so he's got a 2nd round knockout and then 2 third-round knockouts. So bottom line, he ain't getting it done in the first, and that first round is going to be pivotal here. It's going to be a crucial round.
And I mean, you remember the Leleco fight in his debut where that actually in the 3rd round he was the one that was quitting. Leleco fucking 10-8'd him in that 3rd round.
That was sad. That was bad.
Yeah, but I mean he dominated the first 2, but. Fucking 10-8, 3rd round he was quitting, but he said it was because he was sick going into the fight, took it on short notice. So
well, how do you know he's not sick here?
Exactly. So
we'll give him a pass for that because he's gotten better. But look, the bottom line here is the way Machida's been looking. It seems like he got his shit together after that Spicely fight, not just because of the performances, but physically speaking, he's looking bigger than he's ever looked. He's looking more fit than he's ever looked, and the way he's going out there and smashing these dudes. I mean, look, the Marshman fight, there was a shaky moment early on, but Marshman hits like a truck. Then after that, he spinning wheel kick knocked the dude out, and I bet on Marshman there. That wasn't an early stoppage as far as I'm concerned. People can call that early. I bet on Marshman, and that was not fucking early. He got his ass beat, okay? Then the next fight against Gerald Mershaert, I mean, you saw that post, you saw that get-up game, you saw that sprawl, like straight nuts on the forehead, and he fucking absolutely destroyed him. Then he goes in there against Jack Hermanson. You see the speed that Jack Hermanson's operating on. You see the footwork of a guy like Jack Hermanson. And when it was time to turn up, Machida turned up, and they call Machida a sledgehammer, and he absolutely ran over Jack Hermanson with that finishing combo. It was pretty fucking awesome to watch, man. He got hood with him, and he knocked him out. Now it's about, you know, the first round of that Hector Lombard fight with Anthony Smith. Hector was actually getting off on some of the same techniques that Machida is going to look to use here. The body kicks, the leg kicks. I wasn't aware that Hector had all those kicks in his arsenal because normally he's known for throwing big bombs, but I guess when it's 5'8" versus 6'5", you know, you got to utilize some different techniques, and that's what he did there. But, man, there were moments in that fight that were super ugly where Anthony Smith was throwing bombs from his knees and shit like that. It's like, you're throwing from your knees here against Machida, and you're going to take a canvas nap. So, once again, back to what we were speaking about originally. If this fight hits the 3rd round, things could get interesting. If Machida's on his back for extended periods of time, things could get interesting. However, I do think that the physicality of Machida is going to be too much. I think he's going to kick Anthony Smith extremely hard. I think he's going to punch him hard. I think he's going to put him down. I'm going to go with a late first-round knockout for Thiago Maheta Santos, and everyone max betting him. I wish you all the best of luck. You know what I'm saying, Shaq? I wish you all the best of luck. Heavyweight division, Marcelo Golm, he's -160. The comeback on Timothy Johnson is +140. Now, Shaq, in Marcelo Golm's UFC debut, he was also -160, and you told me this is easy money, this is free money. Turned out you were right. But now they're giving him a big step up in competition. He's got the D2 wrestler and Timothy Johnson, but again, it is in Brazil. Marcelo's never been passed around the 3-minute mark of the first round. And what do you think is going to happen here?
You know, that fight with Colombo, like I said, I didn't think the experience thing or him fighting someone that didn't want to fight mattered, because Colombo is, arguably, in my opinion, the worst heavyweight on the roster, up there with Dan Ho and Grabowski. You know, those three are like the worst. So that win, I mean, that should have happened. At least he went out there and didn't even eat a punch. He went out there, fucking smoked the guy, did exactly what he had to do. Would have Tim Johnson done that? I doubt it.
Tim Johnson would have humped his leg for 3 rounds.
Exactly. Tim Johnson would have fucking smoked him like that. But now this is when, you know, the fact where he hasn't been past 2-3 minutes in a fight, now it's when it matters, because Tim Johnson is that grinding, grueling, gritty, grimy type of style. And Tim Johnson's last fight, I don't even know what to say about that, because that was like a completely different guy, man. Like, the punches he was doing, generally, you know, he throws himself into these tie-ups, and, you know, he can, you know, grind guys out, but even his tie-up game, you know, in the but think about it, when he's tying these guys up, think about who they are. Omalunchuk can't get out of a tie-up to save his life. Everyone knows that's how you beat Omalunchuk. Tie him up against the fence and take him down. Volkov, how's Volkov lost in the past? Getting tied up against Tony Johnson back in Congo. Those guys are prone to getting tied up. He did knock out Shamil.
He did beat Tibura as well.
He did beat Tibura. Got, you know, tied Tibura up. But I think his best days are behind him as well. Even though, you know, heavyweights do get better when they're older. I actually think Marcelo Golm is the real deal. Now, granted, I still have questions on him, because I haven't seen what happens when he gets hit. I haven't seen him when he faces adversity. I haven't seen, you know, how his cardio is past that first round. I don't know. I can assume. I think he'll be fine, but it's an assumption. It's a guess. We don't know. So at the end of the day, I don't have the facts to support me betting on Marcelo Golm, but I do think he wins. I actually think the kid has a very bright future. I think he, like we were talking about earlier, I think the kid has a chance to be, you know, the future Brazilian heavyweight star, you know. Take over Verdum's spot when Verdum gets knocked out by Volkov in a few weeks, and you know, he can you know, Verdum can pass the torch to my boy Marcelo. But Tim Johnson, you know, if this fight gets into the later rounds, it'll get hairy. I actually think Marcelo is going to steamroll him in the first. I think the boxing, just the playing with the hands, the low kicks. You saw how my boy was setting up that hand movement against Colombo. So I'm going to go Marcelo first round TKO, and he'll move on to bigger and better things. But if it gets past the first round, people betting on Marcelo, hold your fucking breath.
So look, a lot of people like to talk about how the Brazilian judges and this and that, and I actually think that's a myth, man, because if you watch that fight between Phil Davis and Machida, where Machida clearly won in my eyes, and then they give Phil Davis the decision in Brazil. So that to me kind of debunked the myth that, oh, the Brazilian judges are shitty.
I mean, we look back at the history. They score fights right.
They're pretty accurate with their They're pretty accurate with how they score their fights. But one thing that we do have to criticize is it's not the judges, it's the refs. The refs in Brazil, you got to criticize them, because if Osiris Maia is a ref in a fight, you know what I'm saying? If Mario Yamasaki...
He's got Marcelo and Deiveson in his DraftKings lineup, and he needs to get those points.
So what I'm trying to say, the reason I brought that up is because when Timothy Johnson tries to hug him against the fence, he tries to stall, and because, you know, that's how Tim wins fights. Refs are going to separate that immediately. So now it comes down to, how's Marcelo's cardio? Well, based on how he throws, he's very efficient in there, and, you know, he's not throwing wild haymakers. He's very calm, cool, collected in the pocket. That makes me think that he's got the cardio to go all three. So I think, well, look, I think he's going to stop Tim Johnson. However, if it does go all three, I think he's going to be fine there too, because, like I said, even though we've never seen him past that 2-minute mark, the technique that I have seen with him is that's legit technique, man. That's all real shit right there. So I do think the future is very bright for Marcelo Golm, and I got a lot of respect for the odds maker. I think he opened them -185 for a reason. I think he understands what the deal here is, and look, Tim Johnson's a tough guy. I've had him on half the battle before. He's got some great career wins over Shamil, Marcin Tibura, went to a close fight with Volkov. I respect the guy a lot, but as you know, things change very quickly. I don't know if you saw those recent interviews with him. He sounded punchy, my man.
I mean, another thing that alarmed me in one of those interviews is he said that Junior Albini was fighting for a bigger cause than him. You think you could ever tell top 10 fighters in each division that his opponent is fighting for a better cause than him?
Oh, my God. Do you think Vic would ever say my opponent's fighting for a bigger cause? Do you think Dustin Poirier would ever say my opponent's fighting for a bigger cause? Like, that's some alarming shit there.
It was very alarming to me, and you know, it just seems like he's very nonchalant these days, at least more nonchalant than he has been in the past. That's what happens when you take a canvas snap, you know what I'm saying? And another alarming thing is, generally, you know, when you get knocked out, but, you know, he waved his hand. But, again, he was concussed, so I'll give him a pass. But I think it's going to be a good fight. I think, like you said, I think the way Marcelo throws efficiently, calm, I think he will be able to go to 3.
Yeah, I do as well. But I don't think he's going to go to 3. I think it's going to be stopped early. But if he, you know, if Osiris Maia isn't reffing this fight and there's no separations off those fucking stalling tactics that Tim Johnson likes to use, then it will have to go to the 3rd round. And I think that Marcelo Golm's going to be perfectly fine.
And I think you made a good point with the whole tie-up situation in Brazil. Osiris Maia, Yamasaki, who else is Brazilian? Valel, the Camila Albuquerque. They're all separating.
Yamasaki's brother.
They're all separating that shit fast. You know what I'm saying? So Marcelo's going to have every chance to win this fight.
Yeah, it's just with the judges are accurate for the most part in Brazil. You know, people like to talk about Shogun versus Corey Anderson. Between you and me,
we bet on Shogun there, right?
Yeah, I did at least.
I know I did. And fucking
Corey Anderson got dropped 10 times. He got dropped
twice at the end of each round, so those are our rounds. So.
Corey Anderson didn't win a fucking thing. But listen, man, it just comes down to the refs here, not the judges. And I think the refs are going to separate those tie-ups, and I think Marcelo Golm is going to stop Timothy Johnson, get another big win. Next up, lightweight division, we got Michel Tractor Prazeres. He's minus 140, and the comeback on Desmond Green is plus 120. What are you thinking, Shaq?
You know, I bet on Des Green his last fight against Rustam. Live, I was very pissed just because, you know, I was under the assumption. And, you know, people get emotional and make stupid comments every day. Granted, I feel like I do a better job than a lot of people making stupid comments, or us in general, you know what I'm saying? And I think I made a stupid comment. I think I said Des fought like a bitch or a pussy, and that wasn't the case at all. And he arguably won that fight, in my opinion. You know, granted, you cannot fight Rustam close in Europe, or you will lose every
Even if
time.
you win a 30-27 in here.
Even if you drop him, full mount him, fucking pound his head in, he's still going to win the round. He can get flying head kicked in Rotterdam and fucking still win the round. You know what I'm saying? 30-27 every time. So
Europe is where the judges matter.
Anytime Rustam's fighting in Europe, you max bet it. So, and he has a fight coming up in Europe, so you already know the deal. So, Des Green, you know, Tractor Prazeres, he's on a 6-fight win streak. I think he's 8-2 in the UFC. Only losses to Kevin Lee and Paulo Thiago. My boy Paulo went 2-1 against those AKA welterweights. Not Kosh check the fuck out. Shout out to my boy Paulo. And Tractor, you know, he's super powerful. He's only got 1 knockout, though. So, I mean, I don't think he's got real.
What year was that knockout in?
2004, I think. I think he's only. I don't really think he has knockout power. It's just a matter of Des Green wants this or not. And I actually think he does. I'm going to go with Des Green in the spot. I think he's got the better wrestling. Let me tell you about Des Green's wrestling credentials. The guy was a 2-time, not 1-time, 2-time conference champion at Buffalo University. Division I. He was number 8 in the country his senior year. So the guy was top 10 collegiate wrestlers in America. That says a lot. And I clearly see it. I mean, don't forget this guy beat Josh Emmett. And I'll tell you right now, I just watched that fight a couple days ago, and Emmett didn't win shit of that fight. Des Green won every round. Now, granted, I don't know why the fuck it went to split. I don't know why Des Green's fights tend to go that way, but
I know why, because it was one of the first events in New York, and we know New York judging historically is fucking terrible.
True. Is it as bad as fucking, what was the last event? Charlotte?
Oh, Charlotte's disgusting. Charlotte was absolutely atrocious.
My boy Neto BJJ won that fight, by the way.
Morella Barella won that fight too.
Yeah, so they're disgusting, but I think Des Green got a wrestling advantage. I've seen Tractor Prazeres flop to his back several times. I basically know Tractor Prazeres like the back of my hand. You know, he's got big bombs, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think he's a front runner. I think, you know, when he's in the lead having his way against J.C. Cottrell and Mads Burnell and fucking Josh Berkman and fucking
Gilbert Durinho.
Gilbert Durinho, who you already know my thoughts on that fucking guy. You know, OAM's about to whoop that ass in Orlando soon. And I just think that he's a front runner. When things go his way, he's fine. But then when, you know, you sprawl on him, when you hit him with that straight shot and he wobbles, we already know what happens after that. That panic shot. And you know what happens if you stuck that panic shot? You know what happens after you stuff that panic shot?
Flops to his back.
Flop to that back. Give us that top position. Give that D1 wrestler that top position. And I think we have the edge on the feet if we keep our range. Blast him with his fat, soft body with that left kick. And I'm not even convinced the guy makes weight. I mean, the guy's missed weight three of his last 6 fights, I think. And I think Des hasn't beat everywhere, honestly. It's a matter of Des going out here, seizing the opportunity in Tractor Prazeres' hometown. He's also from Belem, so this has to be convincing. It can't be close. But granted, they've been scoring fights, right? But I think it will be convincing. I think Des Green is actually going to run away with this fight. I think first round will be close, but I think by the end of the first round, we'll see one flop to Tractor Prazeres' back, and we'll steal that round, and then rounds 2 and 3 will completely drown him.
So we got to talk about Tractor Prazeres' current win streak. So the first win over Valmir Lazaro, that was a fucking robbery. That was an atrocious, disgusting decision. Disgusting. Yeah, it was absolutely disgusting. The first round, Prazeres won. Yeah. The second and third round, I mean, Bidu Lazaro clearly won that shit. And then at the end when they're reading the decision...
Just to say this, Marlon Sandro and Lazaro were looking for the judges after that fight.
They couldn't believe... They thought it was an error. They thought it was a mistake when they announced Tractor the winner.
My boy Bidu lost his job over that shit. You know what I'm saying?
It was absolutely horrendous. That was so disgusting. So... I say his win streak started on that JC Cottrell fight. So let's read his win streak. JC Cottrell... Because...
Is JC in the UFC?
No, he's not. Because, listen, I heard Anik's podcast, and much respect to Eryk and Florian, but Eryk was saying shit like, what does Michel Prazeres have to do to get a top 15 spot? Hey, Eryk, he's got wins over JC Cottrell, Gilbert Burns, Josh Berkman, and Mads Burnell. Who the fuck are those guys, man? You know, that deserves a top 15 spot. So, listen. Now, I have a question for you, Shaq. Out of Mads Burnell, Josh Berkman, Gilbert Burns, JC Cottrell, which one of those is a D1 wrestler?
None.
Which one of those is athletic?
None.
Which one of those is young and hungry?
Mads.
Yeah, okay.
Mads won his last fight.
Yeah, Mads beat fucking Mike Santiago. I've never heard of that guy. But anyways, listen, man. He's never been in there with a D1 wrestler. He's been in there with a bunch of fucking newcomers or a bunch of scrubs or guys that don't like getting hit.
He's been taking advantage of young kids that don't belong here.
He's a victim of circumstance. And congrats to him. You know, you have an 8-2 UFC record. Between you and me, he's really got a 7-3 UFC record because he lost to Valmir Lazaro. But he's got an 8-2 UFC record officially. He's beaten a bunch of guys that he's supposed to beat. But every time he's fought someone athletic, you saw what happened when he fought Kevin Lee. You saw what happened when he fought Valmir Lazaro. Now he's going to fight someone else.
He did 30-25 Tysonov.
Yeah, before Tysonov saw Roger Huerta's doctor. You know what I'm fucking saying?
Before Roger Huerta hooked him up with that Marcos from Thailand.
Listen, go look at Tysonov's physique in that fight, and then go look at Tysonov's physique in his current run, and you tell me the deal.
I honestly think that's why he's the favorite. Everyone, clicks on Wiki and sees the scorecards, and they're like, holy shit, Tractor beat his ass. But Tysonov had 2 points deducted. Granted, rightfully so, he blatantly grabbed the fence and what was it?
Illegal head kick.
Yeah, illegal head kick. So,
Let's just put it this way: if those two ever fought again, it might be 30-25 the other way. Okay, it might not go past the first round. So I don't put any stock in the fact that he beat Tysonov a million years ago before Tysonov was on the Flintstone vitamins. So don't put any stock into that. Look, in this spot, I know Dez gets criticized for sometimes not pulling the trigger, but look, a lot of his losses, most of his losses are at 145 pounds. He was cutting way too much weight, and he was going in there with guys that are 18-0, like Andre Harrison. Andre Harrison's 18-0, man. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the best fighters outside the UFC. It was a super closely contested fight.
Too bad Andre Harrison will never touch that UFC in his life.
He'll never see a UFC spot ever. But in this fight, what I think is going to happen is that first round, Michel Prazeres, he comes out super explosive. He's going to try to throw some big bombs, and Desmond Green, who has a 6-inch reach advantage, he's a southpaw as well, he's going to keep that range, blast that straight left down the pipe, set up that right hook. He's got a beautiful right hook. His head movement's on point. And then we got to stuff a couple takedowns at first. We stuffed fucking Rustom's takedowns.
Every last fucking one.
Like, when you stuff every single takedown from Rustom, that tells me the kind of level you're on. And the shit didn't even get close. You know what I'm saying?
He shrugged him off with ease. You know what I'm saying?
And now with Prazeres, look, Prazeres might take us down once, but after that, Dez is going to get back up, and he's going to start to pick apart Prazeres, and then by the end of that first round, like you said, we're going to see that first flop from Prazeres, because when things don't go his way, that's what he does. He starts flopping to that back, and you can see it from his UFC debut until his fight with Mads Burnell.
Same shit every fucking time.
It's just now he's about 37 years old, so, you know, now he's slowing down.
Another thing, this guy's been a pro since 2000. Pro for 18 fucking years.
Jesus Christ, man. 18 years as a pro. I mean, eventually he's got to bring it back home, man. Look, you know, people think that he's going to win because he's in his hometown. Well, let me remind you of the time when Demian Maia fought a D1 wrestler in his hometown. You remember what happened when Colby fought Maia in Sao Paulo?
It was a lot of pulling guard and flopping.
And let's put it like this. So people remember how Colby was getting picked apart for the first 3 minutes or whatever of the first round? So let me ask you this: if he was really getting picked apart in his hometown of Sao Paulo, don't you think the judges would have scored the first round for Demian Maia?
30-26.
Not a single judge scored a fucking thing for Demian Maia. So again, I'm not worried about Brazilian judges here fucking Dez over. I think that if Dez clearly wins, he will clearly win. It's just about, you know, about Osiris Maia separating them. But the thing is, the good news here is that Dez wants his distance. He wants to be separated, so it's all good. You know what I'm saying? Osiris Maia might let Prazeres, you know, stall out the fight a little bit longer, but
just to survive.
But Dez can separate. That's where that D1 wrestling comes in. So I think Dez is going to have a clear, you know, 29-28 on 2 scorecards, 30-27 on the last one, maybe even a late TKO here if Prazeres really starts to flop, because once again, this isn't JC Cottrell, this isn't Mads Burnell, this isn't Gilbert Durinho Burns, this isn't Josh Berkman. This is a fucking D1 wrestler. This is an athletic specimen. This is the best fighter he's fought on his current win streak, and I think he's going to take an L, and rightfully so.
You know, he did make a comment. He said when Tractor fought Gilbert, which is Des Green's teammate, he said that Tractor didn't want to hop in Gilbert's guard. I think he took him down, though, a couple times. But Des says that he goes in Gilbert's guard every single day. So I think he'll be fine on the mat.
Speaking of that Gilbert Durinho fight, and we all, if you've heard Half the Battle, you know how much of a punching bag Gilbert Durinho Burns is. Gilbert closed his eyes and he still dropped Tractor Prazeres, just so you know. Yeah. So, you know who's someone that doesn't close their eyes when they strike? Des Green.
And not to mention that we've had experience with this type of opponent before. A guy, short, stocky, how tall is Tractor? 5'5", 5'6". You know, Emmett's 5'6.5". We've already had experience with a guy that throws big fucking haymakers. I honestly think Emmett has way more punching power. Emmett knocked out Christos Giagos and Lamas, so
that's more knockouts than
Prazeres has. Right there, and he's got plenty more. So I think Dez has fought this type of opponent before. Even Rustam, a guy that throws big fucking overhand rights with wrestling. So
bottom line,
this is light compared to those two. Honestly,
I'm gonna go with Desmond Green for the upset here. Now next up, Valentina Shevchenko. She's minus 1,000, Shaq, and the comeback on Priscila Cachoeira is plus 650. Now it's interesting because I was actually gonna pick Priscila Cachoeira to beat Lauren Murphy, because we all know Lauren Murphy is a scrub.
We had bet on
But Valentina is not a scrub.
Valentina is actually really fucking good. You know, the thing with this fight is, first of all, I'm gonna go say I think the consensus thoughts on Priscila Cachoeira is that she sucks and that the way she strikes is ugly and disgusting, and you know, it is ugly and disgusting. But Daniel, name one chick that's willing to throw down and bang like that.
Jessica Andrade, her teammate.
Her teammate, exactly. So there's obviously something going on in that cat. Those chicks got heart. Those chicks don't give a fuck. Those chicks. And do we have to tell them Priscilla's background a little bit? Just to say this, I don't think she's gonna quit at all. You know what I'm saying?
Tell them her background.
She's a former crackhead. You know what I'm saying?
Crack what?
Crack whore, actually. But, you know, she's overcome all those things in her life, and now look at her. She's fucking on the main card fighting Valentina Shevchenko. Now,
my boy Sean Shelby must know something. If he matched her up with Lauren and then Valentina.
And look, I think the fight's going to end up playing a lot closer than the fucking line indicates, because I know Valentina's way better. But the thing is, when you have a chick that doesn't give a fuck, that's probably, you know, wired genetically like a fucking guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, the way she fights, like, only chicks I see throwing down like that are her and fucking Andrade. And, you know, is Valentina used to this type of power? Yeah, probably. She has fought Amanda Nunes. But the thing is, Nunes didn't fight like that when she fought Valentina. Nunes was fucking patient. Now, granted, Valentina's light years above her across the board. And Valentina, the thing I like about her is her style. I like about her style is that, like, she has the same reactions to everything, but they work every time. You know, she's gonna throw the right hook, fucking the second, the spinning back fist. She throws the same few techniques every fucking time. Like, but granted, she's super efficient with them, and most chicks besides Amanda can't figure it out. So, I actually think, you know, the over was like what, over 2.5 was plus money. What is it right now?
Plus 115, I think.
Yeah, plus 115 for that over 2.5, and I actually think that over 2.5 will cash because I think Priscilla has the heart to go 3 rounds, and I think Valentina's actually going to be very timid when one of those left foot right uppercut combos land because I think the chick hits that hard. Now, granted, I thought she was going to knock Lauren Murphy the fuck out. That's why I bet it. Granted, you know, she had some visa problems and it couldn't happen, but I think this fight has the potential to be very hairy early. I think Priscilla's going to get in her face and fucking start letting them fly right away like she does every single fight. And it's a matter of Valentina just takes her down after that. But the size advantage for Priscilla's, how many times has Priscilla made 125? Like once, I think. And it was like, it wasn't even 125. It was like 128, 129 or something like that. So this chick's a big chick, but Valentina should take it. Dan, you already know how I feel about playing minus 1,000. So like, people are really parlaying this. Like, they think it's free money.
They think they're sharp playing minus 1,000.
You're going to fucking lay 10 units to win 1?
20 units to win 2?
You're going to parlay this with fucking Machida and Anders. You
disgusting.
You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely disgusting.
Clearly they haven't learned their lesson. It might come back. They'll probably get away with it this time. You know what I'm saying? But when they don't and they keep doing it, just like they said Chandler versus Primus was free money and and we saw what happened there. Anything can happen in that cage, but I will go with Valentina by decision.
Just like Mirsad Bektik minus 1,000 was easy free money against Darren Elkins. You know what I'm saying, Shaq? It's a similar situation just in terms of the line. But look, obviously the rightful favorite's Valentina. I think she will come away with the win here. She's simply too composed, too technical for someone like Priscila Cachoeira. But look, when it comes to chick fighting, knockout power is a big thing, my man. It's huge because these chicks aren't used to getting hit like that by other chicks. Exactly. You know, with dudes, it's like if a dude comes out there swinging like that, then he'll get fucked up right away. But with the chicks, it's different because you can spook a girl out throwing heat like that. And, you know, she does train with Jessica Andrade. That's why she throws like that. Look, Jessica Andrade doesn't have the best technique either. But when she connects, exactly. They feel
those
it.
115-pound chicks freak the fuck out. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I don't think Valentina Shevchenko is going to be the one to freak out. I think Lauren Murphy would have freaked out for sure. So I think, you know, Valentina might stay super cautious here and maybe extend this out to a decision. That's why, you know, it's funny. You hear all these people talk about how, oh, I bet the women's over every fight because there's a 70% hit rate, which is actually super misleading, Shaq, because it's always about minus 330. But in this spot, the over is plus money, and they're passing on it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because they think it's that much of a landslide victory. And I'll tell you right now, I think it's going to go 3 rounds.
I mean, I think so too. I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe Valentina really.
It's an armbar, but the thing I've seen Priscilla in armbars, like in fully, and she got out of them because she's got that much heart.
The thing I'd be worried about here, you know, if I was going to pick Priscilla or if I was going to take, you know, the over, this and that, is that I have a feeling that Priscilla...
She might knock her out.
Well, but I think that Priscilla might show too much respect to Valentina. She hasn't showed respect to these bums she's been fighting in the regional scene, but when you're in there with Valentina, you know, Valentina's getting off on those feints. She cracks you with that first right hook when you come charging in. She might show some respect to Valentina, and then it could go the over. So, you know, that's one of those things, man. But at the same time, the way these two throw down, it could end inside the distance. I really don't know, man. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, you got to go with the favorite here. She's minus 1,000 for a goddamn reason. I'm going to go with Valentina. But
you think Valentina will ever touch that UFC belt?
She had her chance, man. Listen, I mean, if her and Nico Montano are fighting, then yes. If her and Lauren Murphy are fighting, then yes. But she'll never touch that 135-pound belt in her life. Make no mistake about that, Shaq.
Valentina versus Jessica Eye for the 125-pound.
You know what I'm saying, bro? Co-main event of the evening. John the Magician Dodson, he's minus 150. Pedro Pedrinho Munhoz is plus 130. Now, they call him the Magician, but my boy Magic Marlon Moraes just beat the Magician. So, you know, Magic always beats the Magician, and now he's taking on my boy Pedrinho. And look, I know Pedrinho is a punching bag the first 3 minutes of every fight, but unless you're knocking this dude the fuck out, unless you're Jimmy Rivera or Rafael Assunção, you're most likely losing to this dude. So now it's about, can Dodson keep his squirmy shit up for 3?
It's a super tough fight because, like we said, Pedro is a fucking punching bag. I mean, when Stasiak's getting off on the feet against you, you know what I'm saying? Granted, he won all those fights. His fight with Jimmy was one of the best fights, of that year. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was a super entertaining 16. Fight, and Pedro's got power. He dropped Jimmy. Granted, Jimmy's a little chinny, but he dropped Jimmy once or twice? Twice, actually. He dropped him twice. Granted, Jimmy dropped him fucking 100 times. But Pedro's no slouch. Pedro, that Rob Font, I feel so stupid for not betting on him, and I'm probably going to feel stupid for not betting on him here again in Brazil at underdog money like he always is. And fucking...
We still got time to change your mind.
And, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is, Dodson, the difference between with the Moraes fight, which ain't going to happen in the Pedro fight, in my opinion, is Moraes broke him down on the feet. Like, technically, hard, body kick, right head kick, overhand rights. Pedro isn't going to do all that. Now, Pedro's got power, but he can't do it as efficiently as Marlon. And I think, Dodson does have the style to run away from him for 3 rounds. I think that he does have the movement. Granted, I think he is slowing down. I don't think he's as fast as he once was. And granted, the last 2 Brazilians he's fought, he's lost to. But I think those guys are better than Pedro, in my opinion. I think Lineker's just way too more aggressive. I mean, even though Pedro's aggressive, but it's just a difference. When Lineker hits you, it's completely different. And like I said with Marlon just previously, but I do think Dodson's on the decline, but I'm actually going to go with Dodson here. I think he's going to win 2 out of the 3 rounds. I think the first round he's going to win. I think, second round he's just going to be looking to stall, run away, and Pedro's going to be coming, exposing himself, and I think he's just going to land the better shots. I think it's going to be a split decision, close type of fight, and I think Dodson will actually get it in Brazil.
And I'm going to go the opposite way. I got to go with my boy Pedrinho Munhoz, man. I think that the first 3 minutes of the fight, he's going to get tagged with some big shots, and he might even get knocked out here. But if he doesn't get knocked out, if he stays composed, that's when Dodson starts to just stare at you. That's when Dodson's volume starts to wane. That's when my boy Pedrinho Munhoz, who excels in that chaos, he's going to create some fire, and I think he's going to land some big shots on John Dodson, kind of like he did to Robbie Font, when they fought, man. Rob Font was getting off on some big strikes, but Pedro bit down on that mouthpiece. He went forward. He swung a big overhand. And then it was Robbie Font who turned into the panic wrestler. And if there's one guy, Shaq, that you don't want to be a panic wrestler against, it's Pedro Munhoz, because one does not simply escape the Pedro Munhoz guillotine. And I don't care if you're John Dodson. I don't care if you're Robbie Font. I don't care if you're Justin Scoggins, who gets choked out by everyone, by the way. But look, Justin was putting on a clinic against him in that first round, and Pedro created that chaos, and you saw what happened, man. With a guy like Pedro Munhoz, you have to be on your fucking P's and Q's the entire fucking time, man, or else you're gonna get choked out, man. Unless you're a goddamn Rafael Assunção or Jimmy Rivera, they're not top 5 guys, Shaq. They're top 3 guys, okay? They might even be top 2 guys between you and me. So, I don't think that he's facing a Jimmy Rivera or a fucking Rafael Assunção here. I think he's facing a John Dodson who's slowed down a lot, who's no longer the fastest guy at flyweight or bantamweight anymore. He's like 36 years old now. You know what I'm saying, man?
But another thing is, when he fought Rob Font was like trying to get him out of there. I don't think Dodson's gonna try to get him out of there. I think he's just gonna sit back and try to weasel out. Like Scoggins and Font, like those guys were trying to actually knock Pedro the fuck out. They were actually trying to knock him out. I don't think that's the way to go about fighting Pedro. I think you need to sit back. Granted, Jimmy's good enough to try to knock him out because Jimmy's arguably a future world champion, and we already know the fucking point skills that Assunção has. And I feel like Dodson's game is more towards that side, and I think he's gonna sit back. Those guys try to knock him out, which is stupid to fight Pedro like that.
Yeah, I agree, but the last time that Dodson sat back against someone and picked him apart was Eddie Wineland, and I mean, we know we just have to touch that jaw one time, and then Eddie won't throw anymore. So with Pedro, see, look. If Pedro decides to not throw, then yeah, Dodson's going to pick him apart. But since when does Pedro decide to not throw? Pedro's going to get hit with a bunch of shots, and then he's going to bite down, then he's going to create that chaos. And we know Dodson doesn't like getting hit. Pedro doesn't give a fuck if you hit him. You just don't knock Pedro out, and he's good to go. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go with Pedrino Munhoz by second or third round submission, but it won't surprise me if this goes to decision and he wins a 3-round decision because Dodson is a pretty durable guy. I don't think he's been finished in a long time. Not since his early days before the UFC. That's I think the last time he was finished. So, but hey, there's a first for everything. I don't think Robbie Font was ever finished until he fought Pedrino, you know what I'm saying?
He was finished mentally against my boy Hands of Stone. The guy was flopping to his back several times.
Hands of Stone couldn't get him out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because he flopped.
Hey, I've seen a Hands of Stone tap people out. Shout out to my boy Cisco Rivera.
That bum.
So I'm going to go Pedrino Munhoz for this upset. I think it's a dogger pass situation. Main event of the evening. Eryk, your boy Anders, is minus 300. The comeback on Lyoto the Dragon Machida is plus 250. Now, man, it's funny because if times were different, the line would be flipped. It'd be minus 300 Lyoto and plus 250 for your boy. But now, times have changed, and, Lyoto, he's at that point, kind of like Chuck Liddell was when he fought Rich Franklin, where you're getting knocked out by every single person you fight. You can't take the shots anymore. But, man, Eryk Anders is super green. However, Lyoto is at that point where one skull touch and good night, Irene. So what I got to ask you is, are the skills of Lyoto still too much for a guy like Eryk Anders who is on his way up? Or is it simply a case where, it's going to be a sad reality of the fight game and Lyoto's going to take another canvas nap?
It is tough to say because I think those skull touches are pretty fucking serious. I mean, we saw what he did to a guy that's never been knocked out in Marcus Perez. I mean, Marcus Perez might not fight for a whole year after that because he got his ass beat that bad. And it wasn't due to skill. It was just by brute force. He's just so big. Granted, he's never seen anything like Lyoto before. I don't care if Lyoto's got knocked out 100 times in a row. That's against Luke Rocco. That's against Yoel Romero. That's against Brunson. That's against, he's lost to Weidman. Those are top. All those guys are top 10. You know what I'm saying? So he hasn't seen anything like this. Granted, I do think the skull touch is just going to be too much. That's what my gut tells me. I think Lyoto's going to be doing exactly what he did at Brunson. I think he's going to be making him look silly first couple minutes. I think Anders is going to be whiffing, and Lyoto's going to slip like how he did against Luke, touch him a couple times. But I think Anders' head is just too big, and he'll block it. Granted, if he goes down, then props to Lyoto. But I think eventually, at some point, Anders will land a left hand, and Lyoto will be unconscious in front of his countrymen again. Granted, it's a fight, at that line. Do I agree with the line? Maybe not to that extent. I do think Anders should be the favorite here. But minus 300 for a guy that's fucking beat, old-ass Sapo Natal and fucking a kid that,
won't be in the UFC this time next year.
I won't go that far, but just a kid. That kid's a welterweight, if we're being honest. So, I do think Anders will knock him out. Do I want to play around with it? We'll see. You'll have to find out around
MaxBestSeason.com.
Yeah, MaxBestSeason.com. But I do think Anders will get the job done.
I think you will as well, but man, it's just like one of these situations where you go from fighting Rafael Natal and Marcus Perez, now they call you up. You're not just fighting Lyoto Machida, Shaq. You're fighting Lyoto Machida in Belem, Brazil, in the main event. I mean, that first UFC main event is a serious thing, but one thing we mentioned about Eryk Anders is he's got the athletic experience. I mean, he's been there in the D1 championship in football, and yeah, you're not getting hit in the face in football, but you are still clashing heads. You're still taking trauma, you know what I'm saying? But look, the bottom line is I'm just saying I don't think the moment will get to him. I think if he's going to lose this fight, it's going to simply be because Lyoto caught him, and that's the bottom line. And I do think that Lyoto is actually going to look good offensively early on in this fight, man. I think he's simply better than Eryk Anders everywhere, actually, minus the ability to take a punch, which is a huge factor in fighting, as you know, my man. I mean, you got to be able to take that punch. I mean, you saw my boy Chuck Liddell against Rich Franklin. He was fucking Rich Franklin up.
Boy, Taminos last week, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, Tomas Almeida, that was sad, bro.
Yeah,
that broke my heart, bro.
Can't take the punch anymore.
I almost cried, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because, my whole dream of Tomas Almeida being a future world champion fucking that went right out the window. You know what I'm saying, man?
Between you and me, he was never going to touch that belt in his life.
Bro, don't say that, bro. Watch your goddamn mouth. But
he'll never touch that belt in his life.
But as far as this matchup's concerned, I do think Lyoto is going to look good offensively early. It's just that when he finally does take that left hand, it's going to be sad when he takes another canvas snap, man. That's just how the fight game goes. You know, you can't take a punch anymore. It's just about Eryk actually getting off on that punch, which I do think he will, man. You know, if he doesn't get off on that punch, then, hey, maybe Machida can actually get his first fucking win since CB Dalloway in 2014.
That's the last time you want to fight, right?
Pre-USADA, pre-Reebok. You know what I'm saying, man?
CB.
Times have fucking changed. From being the 16-0 guy who just defeated Shogun for the belt.
The Machida era.
Yeah, welcome to the Machida era. To now, and he knocked out Rashad. He defended against Shogun in a controversial decision. And then since then, shit's been hit or miss. You know, I mean, he's had some highlights. Don't get me wrong. Randy Couture, who's 70 years old, was on the wrong end of a front kick to the face. CB, I don't know who the fuck CB Dalloway is. You know what I'm saying, bro? But look. The Ryan Bader situation could happen here. If Eryk, your boy, charges in head first, he gets frustrated and fucking Lyoto counters him, then hey. But the thing is, I don't think Lyoto is durable enough to get it to that point, man. I
bet Bader and CB have nightmares about Lyoto.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go with your boy by knockout. And my boy, your boy, is going to take care of business.
You know, another thing is, this is a 5-round fight, so there's a possibility it does stretch out. And Anders did have a 5-round fight like not too long ago against Brendan Allen in LFA, where in the first 3 rounds he absolutely bombed on Brendan Allen, dropped him every round, hurt him every round. The last 2 rounds, he completely gassed out. Granted, he's never been in a situation like that before at the time, but let's see what happens if this fight does stretch out in the 4th and 5th round.
But what was the first thing you said? The first thing you said was he dropped Brendan Allen, he did this.
Exactly.
If he drops Lyoto, it's over, bro.
Allen's fresh to, survive.
Allen's 22 years old, okay?
You know what I'm saying? So Allen can recover. We'll see if Lyoto can. But even in the tie-ups, man, he's so big. Even though he doesn't have the best technique in the tie-ups.
He's going to be slower than Lyoto, too, by the way.
He's just so big. But like I said, I think Lyoto styles on him for the first couple of minutes, and then out of nowhere, there'll be a flash KO.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because we've been interviewing Eryk Anders for a long time, man. This time next year, him being in the UFC was just a dream, you know what I'm saying? Like, he hadn't even fought for that LFA belt yet. He was just going out there and blasting jobbers in the first round. Now, you know, now he's in the motherfucking UFC in the main event fighting a goddamn legend. Like, that's career progression right there. That shows you how fast things change in the fight game, man. Another thing that's going to show you how fast things change in the fight game is when Eryk Anders not only comes full circle, but he knocks out Lyoto the Dragon Machida in probably the 1st or 2nd round, my man. It's going to be sad. So before we hit up Kyle Marley, man, we got to let the fans know, man. If they want to hit up these packages, you go to bestfightbase.com, you go to maxbetseason.com. My boy Shaq already in the profit for 2018. I'm right on the cusp of the profit. But look, this ain't about a 1 month this, 1 month that. This is about the fucking year for me, man, because as you know, 3-0 on years, close to 100 units in profit. I mean, this is a long-term game. I don't think anyone does it better than us.
Guys, I'm telling you right fucking now, things are about to start heating up after this weekend, after we catch this nice little underdog play. Then guess what season it's about to be these next couple of weeks? Max bet season. I already told you what my record is on straight max bets. What is it? Undefeated, never lost. So, I mean, it's time to hop on these max bet winners for this next month, especially this next month. There's a lot of fucking
opportunities. Especially UFC Austin.
There's a lot of fucking opportunities. UFC Austin, and it's not even what you think, so don't even think that. You know what I'm saying? It ain't what you think. So, you already know I'm on those max bets that you don't even know about. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you mean
you guys can't even guess my max bets half the time. I give you every guess in the book, and you still can't get
these. When we had Mateus Nicolaus, our max bet jobbers are like, wait, so Carlos Condit's your max bet?
What? Carlos?
Like, all right, I know who your max bet is. It's Cyborg, right?
Like, no, man. Exactly. And I know they won't even see this max bet coming. You know, like I'm saying, undefeated on straight max bets since
undefeated on consensus max bets. That means when Shaq and I agree on a max bet, it's gonna fucking win.
It's a winner. Fucking, and you know, we got individual package. If you don't like me, get my boy Dan's package. If you don't like him, get my package.
Exactly. Get on board with who you want to support, and that's the bottom line.
You're dealing with people that are doing this shit every day, all day.
And with that VIP service, you get the direct consulting, that personal consulting. Because, you know, with the basic and individual, it's fucking great too. Don't get me wrong. You're going to get those plays. You're going to win. But with the VIP, you have a question? You want to hit me up at midnight on a Tuesday?
You know
hit me up at midnight on a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying?
You can call me and you can ask me if You think Tim Means is parlayable this weekend? And I'm going to tell you fuck no. But at least you can call me and you'll get my opinion on any fight that is scheduled.
BestFightPicks.com, MaxBetSeason.com. Make sure you sign up today. And if you let us know that you listened to today's podcast and that's where you heard the promotion, we're going to give you a significant discount. So make sure you hit us up and let us know that you listened to this episode of the podcast because we want to hook you up. We want to work with you. We want you to be on Team Best Fight Picks. Well, now we got to hit up Kyle Marley for the Big Marley Minute. And joining us now on the Big Marley Minute is the 7-times DraftKings qualifier, Big Marley. Kyle, how's it going, man?
Hey, good, man. How are you?
Doing excellent. So, listen, I heard a rumor that you're supposed to compete in the finals for this DraftKings tournament this weekend. Only 25 people were allowed in the tourney. And then they got word. Someone tipped them off that Big Marley was in the tournament itself, and I hear they canceled it.
Yep, they just said, well, fuck it, we'll just give them the money right now. No, but they're pushing it back to the pay-per-view next week. I'm not a big fan of that. I wish it was just going this week because I'm ready to get it over with. This qualifier's been going for like a year now. So, yeah, I'm ready to get it over with and win this thing.
So after you win this, does that make you an 8-times qualifier?
No, I would say still 7 times. I don't know how that works when you qualify within a qualifier, so I would just count it as 1, but it'll make me the champion for the last year, I guess.
Defending, like, how many title defenses is this?
No, I mean, there really is no title. It's just qualifiers, and I've never won a qualifier. I've just been in them. I've never had first place, so hoping to get my first one here.
Yeah, I think you will, but before you do that, we got to talk about these fights real quick, man. Obviously, Eryk Anders, he's taking on Machida. He's a huge favorite. I mean, is Eryk Anders going to get the biggest win of his career, or is Machida going to get back on track?
You got to think Anders is going to get him here. Machida's getting old. Man, that 2-year ban didn't help him at all. And it's been a long time since he's won a fight. And I think he's just taking this one too quick after that knockout from Brunson. I like Anders here quite a bit, but this is like a 100% fight for me. If I'm making 10 lineups, I probably want like 8 or 9 Anders, and then I'm going to have Leota in the other one just in case he does get that. Get Anders coming in and gets the knockout in the first round. You're going to need him. But I just don't see that happening, so I'd rather only have 1 of my 10 lineups on him. But I'll have 100% of this fight in my GPPs. You can stack it in cash if you want. I'm not sure if I will or not yet, but it's stackable.
A tough fight to call on paper is Dodson versus Munhoz. Dodson is so fast. Munhoz is so hittable early, but he's super tough. One day all that shit's going to catch up to him. It's just a matter of if this is that time. I think he's a live underdog, but you got to deal with the fact that he's going to get tagged early on in that first round. So, I mean, are you willing to take that risk?
Yeah, I think I might be. He is a dog, and you got to get some dogs in your lineup, especially if you want Anders. So I think this is one way I'm going to get there is with some Munhoz lineups. I think he can get it done. I think Dodson's better on the feet, but I think Munhoz can hang with him. This is in Brazil. Maybe we can get some home cooking, and if it hits the ground, I think it's Munhoz's world. So I'll just be rooting for him to get that neck. I'm not sure if I'll have much Dodson, but yeah, I'm going to have to take a few shots on Munhoz.
I know Valentina is a minus 1,000 favorite. I know she's priced really high, and for me personally, man, I think she's going to win, obviously, but I can't rely on a chick to get a first-round knockout, so I'm personally avoiding this fight. Are you in the same boat, or are you actually going to go ahead and play her?
Yeah, I mean, she's 9,600 on DraftKings. That's 400 more than the next highest, which is Santos, so it's going to be really hard to pay up for her. But I think everyone is kind of avoiding her for that same reason. So I think I might have a few GPP shots just in case she does get that first-round knockout. I think she'll be lower on than she should be as a minus 1,000 favorite. But yeah, I mean, it's just paying up at that $9,600 price. Can you do it or not? I'm not interested in her opponent at all. I think Shevchenko's a better cash play. So it's mostly a fade fight in GPPs unless you want to take that shot on Shevchenko. But minus 1,000 is always good for your cash lineups. You want those safe ones.
Yeah, and speaking of the knockout, man, obviously Thiago Santos versus Anthony Smith, we know for a fact that's ending inside the distance. The winner of this fight is going to make or break your lineups, in my opinion at least. Whoever picks this fight right is going to get a shit ton of points. Now, I know everyone's leaning towards the favorite Thiago. I am as well, but man, this kid Anthony Smith has a knack for that third-round KO.
Yeah, I mean, and Santos definitely isn't perfect. I think his line's a little bit too high as it is now, and him being the second highest price guy on DraftKings makes me not want as much of him, but I'm definitely interested. That kick could definitely end it real fast. He could even get multiple drops in this fight, which will really add up on the points. So I'm interested, but I don't think I'm going to have a complete fade on Smith. I'm a little interested in him as well. Maybe he can tire Santos down, maybe get to the ground. I think on the ground he would have an advantage. But Santos is the pick here. It's just, can you pay up for him? If you're fading Shevchenko, then I think you can. See, I'll have a little bit of both, but Santos is the pick.
So Michel Prazeres, he's taking on Des Green, and this is in Michel Prazeres' hometown of Belem, Brazil. We saw Damian Maia fight Colby Covington in his hometown of Sao Paulo. And, I mean, this is the first D1 wrestler that Michel Prazeres has fought on his current win streak. So I actually think this could be a sneaky underdog play for DraftKings. You know, get a couple takedowns in there when the guy starts to flop to his back. Are you on board here?
Yeah, I actually have Green winning this fight. And I bet it at, I think, plus 130. But I'm not sure if I'm as interested in DraftKings because even when he wins, he really doesn't score that high, and this is in Prazeres' hometown, so that worries me a little bit. Let's see here. Green, in his first win against Emmett, he only scored 64 points in a win, and then in his last fight, he lost and only scored 29. So if he won somehow, that would only be 59 points with the decision. So I don't know. I'm more interested in betting him than I would be playing him in DraftKings, but you got to find those dogs. I think I would prefer Munhoz in DraftKings because he has a higher ceiling. But they're both in play. I think I'll have some Green. And then Prazeres, he just scores high. If he can do what he usually does, he's going to go out there and score over 100. I just don't see him being able to manhandle Green. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight, and Green's going to pick him apart a little bit, maybe get a 29-28 decision. But I think it would look closer to a 30-27 if it was in America.
I don't know if you just heard the dog barking, but Oscar just blessed your Desmond Green bet, my friend.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So, another one, man, we're talking about sneaky underdogs. I know everyone is taking that underdog shot on Timothy Johnson. And, man, I'm actually the opposite way. I like the favorite here. Even though this kid's never been past the 2-minute mark of the first round, I think Marcelo Golm, I can tell good technique when I see it. I personally think he's going to come out here and put Timothy Johnson away. I don't know if you feel the same way, but Marcelo Golm will make some of my DraftKings lineups, Kyle.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that Golm would be pretty popular, and that was making me think, you know what, maybe I'll take some shots on Timothy Johnson. It's heavyweights, you never know what's going to happen. But I've heard more people talking about Timothy Johnson as well, so now I'm like, well, fuck it, let me just go with what I think is going to happen, and I think that's a Golm first-round knockout. So, yeah, I would prefer Golm, but I was just worried about him being like 50% owned, and you have to compete with half the field. So, yeah, I'm kind of getting that same feeling as you are, that he might be a little under-owned, and I'm liking Golm a lot at 8,700. I have a hard time seeing him not pay off that in a win.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and, you know, a friend of the show, Marlon Vera, he's making his return to Brazil. I mean, the kid's got balls, man. He just went 3 rounds with Lineker. Now he's taking on Dion Drage, who is also, you know, a heavy hitter. But this time, man, I think he's going to get back on track. You feel the same way, or are you going for the underdog here?
Man, I think this is more of a fade fight for me. I think Vera is my pick. I'm just not really confident in either one of these guys. The only way I will own either of them, I think, is if I'm just doing like a mid-range kind of lineup, and they are just my last pick. If I have $7,900 remaining for my last fighter, I'll go ahead and just take Andrade. But if I have $8,300 remaining, sure, I'll go ahead and take Vera. But I won't be starting any of my lineups with these two. I would prefer to fade it if I can, but pick is Vera.
Damir Hadzovic came through for me huge against Marcin Held with that big knee, but now he's taking on another grappler. We know Patrick just wants to lay on him, score those takedowns, get those points. It's just about hoping for a big knockout from Damir Hadzovic. Are you going to hope for that big knockout, or are you just going to stay away?
Man, I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth. I originally wanted Patrick for the takedowns because, I mean, you love takedowns in DraftKings, but he's 9,000 on DraftKings, and Hadzovic is only 7,200. So I might have to take a few shots on him and hope he gets that knockout. I just think the more likely route is Patrick wins in the decision. I just don't know if he's going to end up paying off his value because I do like Hadzovic. I just don't know if he's going to get this one done. I think he does have to get the knockout to win. And if he does, he's going to outscore that $7,200 price tag. So, sure, let's take some shots on him. I haven't made any lineups with him yet, but I haven't made too many lineups, period. So, I could see him making a few, but I could also see Patrick making a few as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought too hard on this one yet. I like both, and I also like the fade, so I have no idea what I'm going to do here.
All right, last but not least, Deiveson Figueiredo. He's making his third appearance in the octagon. He's taking on Joseph Morales. Joseph Morales, he's an undefeated kid. He's never seen anything like this before in his life. I think this is first L time. Well, whoever loses, it's first L time because they're both undefeated. But between you and me, Deiveson might have lost that fight to Brooks last time out. But it was a close one, man. Brooks is an Olympic-level wrestler. I think he's going to get back on track here, even though he never technically lost. You got Deiveson or Morales?
I'm going with Deiveson here. It's in Brazil. I'm pretty sure Morales has never been to Brazil, especially to fight. So he's a Cali boy. He's probably had all his fights out there. This is going to be his first time going to enemy territory, and Brazil is not a really good place to do that. So I have to go with Deiveson. I'm pretty impressed with him, but I do think he lost that last fight as well. So maybe even if this is going Morales' way, maybe we'll still see some hometown cooking. But yeah, I think I would lean Deiveson here. I'm not exactly sure how I want to tackle this with DraftKings. I might have interest in them both, but again, kind of like that Vera fight, it'll be more, what do I have left in my salary? Maybe they'll be the last guy in my lineup. I'm not starting any with either one of these guys.
Well, Kyle, we always appreciate the hard-hitting insight, my man. Good luck this weekend, and next week I know you're going to kill that tournament, man. So the fans can follow you at Big Marley 3. Kyle, any message for them before we talk next week?
That's it, man. Got head-to-heads posted if anyone wants some action.
And once again, that's why my boy Kyle Marley is doing the big things that he's doing. You know, it's funny. He was supposed to be in the finals of this DraftKings tournament this weekend, man. They found out that Kyle Marley was going to be in the tournament. They postponed it to next week. You know what I'm saying?
They're trying to shut my boy Kyle down. It's like he can't even walk in a casino in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? He's shunned everywhere.
Yeah, now Kyle's going to have to make his money by selling advice, man, because he can't even make it playing it anymore. You know what I mean?
They're trying to knock my boy off.
But, you know, if you want to go get Kyle Marley's package, make sure you go to DFS Army. Use the promo code Sleeveless to save 10%. But if you want a free bet, you let Kyle Marley know your username. You let him know that you heard us promoting him on Half the Battle, and then you get a free bet from us. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Belem?
My fight to watch is going to be Des Green versus Tractor Prazeres. You know, I think if Tractor did get this one, he would be right outside the top 15. I mean, the guy, if he did win this fight, would be 9-2. You can't deny those type of numbers, you know, no matter who he did fight, because Des Green is a solid win. And if Des Green can win this fight, you know, he did just get a new UFC contract. That would solidify his spot in the top 25, you know, moving forward. Then he can, you know, I mean, the guy's first two fights were against Emmett and Rustam. You know, Emmett was undefeated at the time, had only lost one round, and it was due to a broken finger. And Des schooled him, and then Rustam, he arguably won. So this is another tough fight for Des Green. He's had 3 hard fights, and if he can win this, he solidifies his spot on the roster. It'll be the biggest one in his career. He's been through a lot in his career. You remember when this guy got cut from Bellator, and everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, why would you do that to that young kid, you know, after the Weishel loss? But he's learned his lesson. He's come full circle, and he's learned his lessons. He's learned his craft, and let's see how he takes care of business on Saturday.
UFC gave him a new contract for a reason after coming off a loss, my friend. And that's definitely one of the fights to watch. But for me, my fight to watch is 100% Pedro Munhoz versus John Dodson. Tell me the last time you saw a boring Pedro Munhoz fight. I don't think you can. With John Dodson, there's been a handful of them. But John Dodson needs the right dance partner to have an exciting fight. And I think he's got that right here with Pedro Munhoz, man, because Munhoz creates that fucking chaos, and he excels in that aspect. And I think that this fight's going to be... It's going to be nasty, man. These two are going to throw down. I think there's a chance for a finish, but if not, I think it's going to be a 3-round war, even though Dodson doesn't like the war. When you fight a guy like Pedrinho, you're forced to take part in the war. So, yeah, Pedro versus Dodson. So, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC Belem?
You know, my fighter to watch is going to be Marlon Vera. I think, like I said about Thomas Almeida and Rob Font, of that fight being a must-win situation for both guys, I think this is a must-win situation for Chito Vera. I don't want to say his career is riding on this, but I honestly think his career is riding on this fight. If he doesn't win this fight, it's over. You know, I know he's got personal issues and family issues, and the guy's accomplished so much to be. Well, I mean, I know you guys remember that Davy Grant fight. That was, even though Goddard fucked us,
he's come a long way.
He's come a long fucking way since then, and he has to win this fight. And to beat a guy with the record of Douglas Silva, a guy that's only lost 2 fights, came into the UFC undefeated. Only losses are to Kugov and Rob Font. To add your name to add Douglas Silva, as one of your victims is a big fucking deal, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So if he can get this win, solidifies his spot, he'll be right outside that top 15, and then maybe he will touch that top 15 in his life.
I think he will, my man. And he's gonna keep his Pepsi sponsorship. You know what I'm saying, bro?
You better win this fight.
So my fighter to watch is Marcelo Golm. Look, it's not often that you see a young, exciting, athletic heavyweight, and I think the UFC found something here with this kid Golm. I know 6-0, never been past the 2-round mark and all this shit, but so what? So fucking what? He can go past the fucking 2-minute mark this time and still win. So
remember when they told us Nadia Kasim's never been past a minute 27?
And then she won a unanimous decision, So fucking what? You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if he went past the 2-minute mark and he gassed, then
it would be alarming.
But to me, look, he's got great technique. I think he's going to go out here and knock out Tim Johnson. Marcelo Golm is my fighter to watch because, I mean, anytime you get a young athletic heavyweight, you got to keep an eye out. And hopefully my boy Brandon Sales gets that UFC call soon.
The UFC is in desperate need of heavyweights, so we'll take anyone. And Brandon Sales, just got to win on the local scene here. In front of my boy Akon was at the local fights, and let's just say it got rowdy between the Hawaiians and my fellow African Americans. You can't put us two in the same venue.
Man,
it gets super rowdy.
We were commentating the fucking fight in the crowd more than we were commentating the actual fight itself. You know what I'm saying?
So do not. Anytime there's Hawaiians and black people around, be very careful.
Well, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Follow us on Instagram at Best Fight Picks Official. We want to thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to this very special edition of Half the Battle. Subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Hook up those 5-star reviews on iTunes. And guys, if you hook up that 5-star review, take a screenshot, send it to us, and we'll give you a free bet. We want those 5-star reviews to start to pile up because, look, just like your favorite fighter, we want to hit that top 15. We want to hit that top 10 of the iTunes charts. So take a screenshot of that 5-star review that you give us on iTunes, and we'll give you a free bet. And also, if you want more than just a free bet, you want the real bets, you go to maxbetseason.com, you go to bestfightpicks.com, you sign up today, and, if you want to get on track, you know what to do.
If you're serious about making money this year, you need to sign up at bestfightpicks.com. Like I said, it's about to start heating up real soon. Max bet season every week, just about. And like I said, you know what the record is on max bets, on consensus max bets, on my max bets. So let's get it going.
The first couple of events, this and that, but you and I knew going into it, the first couple of events had the potential to be shaky. But now, there's nothing shaky about this, bro, because now max bet season has officially started. Nico Price took care of biz. This week we got a good underdog play, but next week, back at it again, have a very, very nice max bet. But UFC Austin, that's when really...
UFC Austin might be double max bet season.
If you don't sign up by UFC Austin,
look... UFC Austin, you guys better hop on because I'm going to make you a lot of money. And I don't just talk shit and say things. You know what I'm saying? I put my reputation back before we even started this. We put our reputations on the line every day. You guys remember when I shit on Mickey Gall all over this podcast and said he didn't belong in the UFC and put my reputation on the line when he fought Randy Brown.
Reputation and bank account.
Exactly. When I put $1,075 on Randy Brown in that spot when he was down 2 rounds against Montano. Randy Brown's a jobber. He has no ground game. In my worst case scenario, we win in his guard and we still beat him. You guys remember when I shit on Mitch Clark against Alex White?
Minus 130.
Minus 130 and Alex White, stiffened the boy up. You guys remember when I shit on Louis Smolka on this show and Mateus Nicolau went out there and 30-25 them and 30-26 them? And dropped him 3 times in the first.
You guys remember when we shot on George Sullivan last week? Cashed another consensus max bet winner?
You guys remember when I put 10 units on a Chinese female debutant in China at 5 a.m. against Kylan Curran at minus 130? And then it got adjusted to minus 135. You guys still didn't take the bite. But what did I sit here and told you? I said Kylan Curran's a joke. She's a jobber. She's going to lose. She's a habitual loser. I told you that. We told you that. We max bet it. And,
if they want the long-term winning results, they know what to do.
You know what I'm saying? So, And it's plenty more, man. I told you Marcelo Golm was going to fucking steamroll over fucking Colombo in his debut.
And, people are like, oh, but obviously, well, he was minus 160.
Exactly. Yeah, obviously my ass.
So y'all know what to do. BestFightPicks.com, MaxBetSeason.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and make sure you let us know that you listened to today's episode so we can give you a serious sign-up discount, a sign-up bonus. You know what I'm saying? Because we want to work with you. We want you to be part of the team. So until the next time, let's cash these bets.